deal of footwork. He stroked that through mid-off for 4. Henry in again, edged, and it's caught at third slip. Hugs all round because it's a second wicket. In this half hour before tea, England asked to try and get through to the break, but Sibley is on his way cheaply.
Yeah, a ball really that Sibley, could he have left it? I just don't know, but he's actually just fenced at it a little bit. I thought he was playing back. Yes, he is, and he's squared right around so the chest is facing towards the bowler, and it's gone quite quickly. A little bit more bounce there from Henry, as I say, a bit of a shoulder bowler, and well taken. 2 hands again. This one's by Mitchell at third slip, so Sibley has to depart. 17 for 2. This is a good little session, this mini session for New Zealand. I mean, I originally thought perhaps if they can get maybe 3 wickets before England are able to pass the deficit of 85 runs, then they might be happy with that. Who knows?
Boult swinging into Root. He brought his bat down in time, up to mid-off. Dot ball to end the session. England 18 for 2 at tea here. So 67 behind, but early damage done by New Zealand. They'll be well pleased with this short little period after New Zealand took a lead of 85, 356 for them. So really a busy afternoon session, plenty happening, 7 wickets in all, 80 runs being added, but it's England who really have it all to do.
And Henry from the city end moves in, bowls to Crawley, who plays, goes straight through the keeper. Might have kept rather low. Blundell couldn't stop that, and that's gone through for 4 byes. If that has shot along the ground from that length, then that might be a bit of an issue. It wasn't straight, and Crawley and Root are having a word there, but did keep low. Bounce, that horrible second bounce in front of the keeper.
Yeah, not easy for the keeper. Yeah, I think that's the glimmer for England, is if they can bat well.
Henry bowls, Crawley drives, is a lovely shot. Straight down the ground. And although 2 fielders are pursuing the ball, they won't stop that one. Very straight. Just a little punch. And Crawley moves to 14, 26 for 2. Henry starts a new over, bowls, and hits Crawley on the pad. This is out, surely. Yep, up it goes. I'm afraid from here, even from behind him, that didn't look good for Zach Crawley. And he's coming up and having a conversation with his captain. Well, they might have seen something. He clearly hasn't hit it because he would have reviewed it by now. It looked out from here. Well, they're calling for a review. Well, I suppose they probably have to, but that just looked from here to be pretty straight.
Well, Joe Root, I think, is almost feeling sorry for Zach Crawley and think, well, we've got 3 reviews. I'll give you one, but pretty sure it's out.
It felt out, didn't it? Even though we've got no real view of it.
Length, nip back, well, not a great deal. Oh, it's out.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's.
So it hits his back pad.
That's hit the back flap, as it were, but it just looks out. He's been given out. Ball tracking then. How many reds do we get? 1, 2, 3.
Well, I think Joe Root just wanted to be kind there, just in case the 2% chance that might have maybe just brushed the inside edge, may have just hit him outside the line, but Crawley goes for 17.
Boult in to Pope, who gets a thick edge. It runs down to the deep third boundary. It will bring him 4. It wasn't a false shot as such, but he also wasn't in perfect control of it. It's come off the outer half of his bat, slightly guided, slightly edgy. There's not been many convincing shots in this innings so far. Crawley had a couple of beautiful drives, but for the most part England's batters have been tested. 37 for 3. Pope with that moves to 7 as Henry is in, driven by Pope gloriously in that is totally Ian Bell fashion. How appropriate at Edgbaston. You could, if you'd rewound 15 years, that could have been Ian Bell driving along the ground through extra cover for 4. Henry bustles in and Root drives through mid-off. It's going to be pursued by Conway. It'll be pulled back in, I think, but not before Root has turned for a 3rd run, which he does, and it brings the 50 up for England. 50 for 3, Root to 5.
Pope facing Wagner outside the off stump, a flash, and he's got it away between third slip and gully for 4, behind square on that offside, very deliberately attackingly played. And England are 28 behind now. Pope on to 23, 57 for 3 England. Wagner, slight angle to his run up, left arm over and again. Oh, that squared him up, got him on the pad and gone, and the finger's gone up. Just as we were saying that about Pope. 23 runs to his name. Is he going to review this? I mean, the appeal was immediate. He is going to ask the question. England are 58 for 3. This could become 58 for 4.
It looks perfect from here, doesn't it? The left arm, what the dream dismissal for the right hander, shape him back in to get him LBW. Has it pitched in line?
The ooze from the crowd are because the ball was struck above the knee roll. But Ollie Pope's not a tall batsman.
Was he hit it?
Questioning the inside edge. No.
Yeah, okay. No bat involved. Ball tracking when available, please.
All on the ball tracking then.
Umpire's call gives New Zealand that extra inch or so, doesn't it?
Well, the on-field signal out of course.
Impact is in line.
Well, clipping the top of the bail. It's the on-field umpire call, which does for Ollie Pope. And Richard Illingworth raises the finger once again in confirmation. England are 27 behind, but they're now 4 down. Wagner into Lawrence, outside edge, oh, it's taken by the keeper. A diving take to his right, and Lawrence is out for a duck. England are crumbling here, 58 for 5 now. Still 27 runs behind, and New Zealand quite rightly are smothering Neil Wagner in hugs and high fives, and there's a pained expression on Joe Root's face as Lawrence trudges past him back to the pavilion.
As Wagner past the umpire, bowls down the leg side, in swinging delivery that Joe Root is able to connect with. He just helps it on its way as he picks up a boundary. 71 for 5 then for England as Root moves to 9. That was a bit of a freebie, trailing by 14. Mid-on moves slightly further back as Bracey with an open stance taps his bat down. Patel through, gets a sweep out and bowled! Ajaz Patel. It was the right move, as you say, Jeremy Coney. He gets the wicket straight away. James Bracey, well, his bad fortunes continue. He's furious with himself. He removes his helmet. He takes his gloves off with his teeth, and he looks up into the sky, looking to lap it round the corner, and it goes straight onto the stumps. He's out for 8, and England continue to go deeper into this hole. 71 for 6, trailing by 14.
Let's be honest, folks, that it's a lovely day. It's a lovely sky blue day, and there's not much wind. It's a biscuit coloured pitch, sort of hobnob, and there's not big marks on it at all.
Anyway you look at it, it's been a horrendous collapse from England.
So there's a lot of mistakes, isn't there in the 6 wickets to fall.
Patel bowls, it's shorter, and Root, so is it caught behind, they're appealing, and Root's walking off. A dismal moment. A short ball outside the off stump, and that is a seriously dejected figure.
It is.
Walking from the ground and barely moving as he does so. Short ball outside the off stump, and Root's got to force it away. He's barely played an attacking shot in this innings of 11. But he's gone after this. It hasn't turned. It might just have bounced a little bit more, but he's edged it to the keeper, and he knew. He didn't wait for the umpire's decision, although he did give him out. And Joe Root is still walking off,
trudging off.
11 from 61 balls. So out of character, that innings. And all sorts of options for New Zealand here, not least the extra half hour they could take to wrap this up in 3 days. And I wouldn't necessarily bet against that from happening. Tuffers, more thoughts from you, and then Alison Mitchell's going to come in and cheer everybody up.
Yes, it's been
a chastening afternoon for England and the English supporters.
That's a lot of pressure Ajaz just put on me to cheer everybody up in the face of 76 for 6.
Tell us a joke.
Here we go then. It's sunny. In goes Patel and covering up Wood back up the pitch into the hands of the bowling over.
Trying to cheer people up by saying it was 76 for 6 instead of 76 for 7, so that's one.
Yes.
Sorry.
I feel better already.
You're right. In goes Patel. Wood, expansive shot. Oh, he's lofted this. A heave over the leg side. How much has he got on that? Has it gone for 6? Yes, it has. Well, that does take England beyond New Zealand. They lead by 5. They may be 7 wickets down, but the crowd are on their feet around Edgbaston.
Now, Wood's gone for a big one. It's high in the air. It should be taken by Blundell, who's underneath it, and he does take the catch. Wood's eyes lit up at a short ball. He's trying to smash that over deep mid-wicket. He got a thick top edge, and if the keeper had left it alone, it might have landed on his stumps. It might have been the most unusual played on you've ever seen. But England lose their 8th wicket, 120 for 8. Wood has to go. Boult into Broad. Broad's bowled! Exposed all 3 stumps. And, he just wafted at a full straight ball. It didn't do a great deal. Backed away to leg, aimed an indeterminate drive through the offside, and he's been gassoled. 121 for 9, England on the brink. Wagner in, played and missed again by Anderson through to Blundell.
They survived that period. It was incredibly tough. Yes, it was a bit. They played and missed. You need a little bit of luck. There's a couple of balls that Stuart bowled to Ross Taylor, who, Howard didn't bowl him. We were going, that's incredible. But they got through it, and you feel if New Zealand had that against England's batting, that they would have lost 3 or 4 wickets in that little session, and actually New Zealand found a way just to get through it.
They gutsed it out, didn't they? I mean, they got a little bit of luck in there as well. You might need that, mightn't you, as Wagner is in what might be the last ball of the day. Ball goes through to the keeper, Blundell. Right, now we're going to find out, are we having an extra half hour or are we not? The umpires have said no. The bails have come off. That is the end of the 3rd day of this 2nd test match between England and New Zealand. England are 122 for 9 at the end of it. It's been a day of 16 wickets falling. England will lose this match. That is, I'm going to tell you, it's absolutely certain.
Is shining, and it's a great shame that we're only going to see, one assumes, a very little of what people have paid their money to come and see today, because England, as we heard there, are definitely on the brink. They're 122 for 9. They lead New Zealand only by 37, and surely England will lose. They'll lose this morning, one imagines, and that New Zealand, quite rightly and justifiably, will win this series. So it's a funny old day. We've got people coming in. They've been looking forward to this for so long, and I think most of the 10,000 who we're expecting will appear, and they'll settle down and they'll enjoy their day. If you are coming into the ground, by the way, I can tell you that they're going to show the football on the big screen afterwards. Is there a football match this afternoon, Tuffers?
I think there is. Yes.
Well, whatever it is,
reasonably big one.
Whatever it is, they're showing on the big screen this afternoon. So, given that you are here and you're allowed into this test event bubble situation, you can sit and watch it with your mates.
It's going to be like a festival.
Well, it could be. It could be. And at least you might see one England victory today, albeit on the big screen rather than on the green sword in front of you. And as far as your tickets are concerned, and we will repeat this later on, but between 0 and 15 overs played, you'll get a 100% refund on your money. 15.1 to 30 overs played, you'll get 50% back. So who knows? And it's little consolation when you've paid to go and watch a full day of cricket and have a good time. But there are going to be some things going on. I don't know if we're really bothered about the weather forecast, because I look up there and think, is it going to stay like this for about an hour? And I think it probably will. Susan Powell, good morning to you.
Good morning. You've literally stolen my thunder there, haven't you?
Well, we don't like that word, though.
No, that's for later in the week, actually. Just to tempt you there. But actually, today, we've got a fine day ahead. It's a warmer day. It's a more humid day. One thing I will say, anyone that's sticking around to watch the football sitting outside for the rest of the day today, UV levels are very high. So it is toasting out there. You know what to do. You don't need me to tell you all the protocols. Just that's the case. It's high UV. It's also pretty high pollen. Hay fever sufferers, not that much fun either. But obviously for the 2 matches later in the week, there are those showers that we will be trying to avoid. I think Wednesday there will be some thunderstorms around, but hopefully late enough in the day that we won't get any interruptions in Bristol. Thursday, obviously between the matches, a bit of a write-off actually across southern parts of the UK with thunderstorms at times. And then Friday, hopefully the showers clearing early enough in the morning that we should get a good day's play in at Southampton. But there could just be some quite soggy outfields thanks to the amount of rain we could see out of some of those showers through Thursday.
Really? Some proper ones coming up over the channel?
Some big thundery efforts coming up from basically overnight Wednesday through Thursday, hopefully out of the way Friday morning. But yeah, we are going to be watching that pretty closely. In fact, the Met Office have already issued warnings suggesting there could be some disruption generally because of those showers.
Can you see them already? Are they already there on your radars?
No.
They're still starting off somewhere in South France or
well,
something?
basically, the heat is cooking up at the moment across Spain and across France, and the humidity's building up, and we can kind of see the pressure system in the Atlantic that's waiting to come in and just come together with that warm, humid air from midweek onwards and start to spark things off. So they're not physically there now, but all the little pieces that come together to make that happen are sort of just putting themselves in place.
Fascinating job you have. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Have a good day.
We will do, absolutely. Of course we will. Whatever happens. But yeah, okay, might have to take a cagoule down to Southampton with you, Tuffers.
Yes, and we've got an extra day, haven't we?
There is.
Yes.
That's the good news. They can add a 6th day on. So if there is any interruption, Jeremy, as well, then they can be there for 6 days in the bubble rather than just the 5.
It sounds like a short walk on the golf course, doesn't it?
It does. Yes. It does. Anyway, that's all to come. As far as here's concerned, Jeremy, it's your usual situation. I've seen you and Craig McMillan and Simon Dool, the 3 Kiwis here.
Grinning.
Well, no,
they're not. No, they're not. They're listening to the rest of us grumbling. And because they're such lovely people, they sit there quietly and they very rarely say, can I say something? Actually, our team's playing rather well. Put their hands down again. Because it's true, isn't it? Yeah, we're all chuntering away there. England technique this, sack him, sack that, sack the coaches. Everything's wrong. And it's easy to overlook the fact that actually New Zealand
why does it happen, though? Because, the resources that England have at their disposal.
The resources aren't very
better
good.
Facilities.
Very well.
More people surrounding the team. You would kill us with data. If the game was between computers, you would smash us. You were interviewing one of them the other day.
We did. Yeah.
So
there's a lot of that. Yep.
And yet the simplicity that you describe it as, but it can be reduced down to things that really, I would call them fundamentals, actually, and.
You pick your bat up straight, you bring it through straight, you move your foot to the pitch of the ball, and you bring your bat through nice and straight, and that works So when you're doing things, and you're seeing a host of things, well, I mean, we know Sibley and Burns have got very quirky techniques. You've got two opening batsmen who have got techniques that are very unusual. Burns is clicking at the moment for him, and he's scoring runs, and that's fine.
But as soon as it gets out of
it'll
that
click, it'll click out the other way.
Yes.
Sibley's, well, it's not clicking, obviously. Crawley, he's got issues. Root has changed his technique. Pope has changed his technique.
Yes.
And so I think what Nasser was saying, and I'm going to present it to you as the one batsman of our little trio here, Jeremy, there are things going on in the England top order that have sort of been proven not to be the right way of doing it down the years anyway. So why are they doing it?
Well, it is a temptation if you're not scoring runs to want to change things and to tinker, but sometimes you go in the wrong direction.
But Joe Root was scoring runs. Joe Root scored a massive round of runs in the subcontinent.
Yeah, but not many of the others.
No.
So, you really have to look back to those things I would call fundamentals, that things that you just described, which you can see very plainly from here. I'm not sure that you can get, when you're actually in that little area, you can get lost in things, can't you?
Too much information, too many people offering thoughts.
I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot in that.
When you have so many coaches, everybody has to give
who
a bit of
all
input.
feel they need to offer something,
or feel they have to.
Yes,
or they won't get paid.
I don't think I've seen an England batting lineup with so many different and strange techniques since I've played the game. Actually, so many different shut faces, people moving across, heads bobbing, arms bobbing. Usually you've got one or two in your side that are a little bit quirky, haven't you? And you accept that, but so long as they go out and get their runs and what have you. But virtually everyone who comes to the crease in this batting lineup's got a little bit of a funky technique.
Yes.
And when it comes to the pressurised situations, it hasn't delivered for them.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and it'll be a huge dissection, I think, after this of what's going on, because as far as you know, Jeremy, and again, I'm afraid we're broadcasting to an English audience at the moment. The English focus moves on from here to the Test series with India, and then on to Australia. And there's a lot of work to be done. And looking at the fixtures, which again, it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. And they really plead to the administrators again to try and put Test cricket first, because Test cricket is not first, despite what's happening this year. It is not first, because there are 2 rounds of Championship cricket to come. Not all the counties play 2 games. As it happens, most of England's top order resources will play 2 games in that time. The one that misses out will be Lawrence. He plays only 1, but all the others, Crawleys and Sibleys and Burnses and Popes and so on, will have 2 games. However, that last Championship day of cricket ends 3 weeks before the first Test match against India, in between which time they're playing T20 cricket and, of course, the 100 that they're all going to go and play, which is even more of a thrash around than 20 overs cricket. And then suddenly, we're playing India tomorrow.
And during the best time of the summer, summer.
Yeah. So in fact, I mean, you could argue that those 2 rounds of Championship cricket are worthless, because whatever happens in them, if Sibley scores 100 in the first of those, is that really going to mean that he's in good form for the first ball of the India series 3 weeks later? I mean, it's things like that are frustrating, I think, and they're important. And while it's easy to have a go at the players, easy to criticise techniques and everything else, you can throw all that in there. But actually, are they being given the best chance to actually get out there and play in form and so on? And I think the answer is no.
It is definitely no.
Yeah.
And you're valuing, some of the people who are making those decisions are valuing other forms of the game. Indeed. And money, I guess.
So much investment in the 100.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But, I mean, it has to work, and they're going to want England players to play in it, to give it a profile. So they're going to go from that to playing the first Test at Trent Bridge against India. Anyway, we can
good luck.
We can go on in here for hours, and fortunately the weather is fine, so we won't have to, and we're not going to be grumpy because it's a lovely day, and the sun is shining. I'm sure lots of you have got great weekends lined up with the football this afternoon. Thank goodness that footballer yesterday seems to be okay, but that was just an awful moment, and thank goodness the signs are good there, so that's excellent. And
I'll tell you the best thing, though, is in these two matches has been the crowds.
Yes.
Yeah. Them back has been celebratory. It's wonderful.
Yeah. New Zealand are poised. They're poised for all sorts of things. They're poised to come on the field. They're poised for victory as well. And they're gathering at the far end of Edgbaston while the umpires come out into the middle. It is a glorious day. Not everyone here. I don't think we've got 10,000 here yet, but we've got some fancy dresses. How to embarrass the BBC cricket correspondent. Your nephew comes as one of half a dozen flirty Bavarian barmaids in the Hollies stand.
Oh, I say.
He wants me to go in there and say hello. I'm not sure about that. I might send Tuffers in. But if anyone sees them, you'll find my nephew Alex in there. Well, I'll suggest you keep out the way, frankly.
Okay.
But anyway. So, a big cheer for India's not batsmen, Anderson and Stone, who I think, to put it mildly, have got a lot to do.
You never know.
No, you never know. But
James Anderson.
Well,
yeah. Test debut 100.
How do you feel when you walk out to bat as number 11
Horrible.
and you got that sort of expectation going on from the Hollies stand when you know, but I'm not going to score any?
Well,
I'd love to.
Yeah, it's not that you're not
I'd
going to...
love to get 100, but it's not going to happen, chaps. I mean, there's that level of expectation, isn't there? Or is it just wild optimism?
I don't know.
Drunken optimism?
It could have. Well, not this early, perhaps.
Oh, might be.
But there certainly needs to be some optimism for England, that's for sure. I mean, there's every chance that they could lose this wicket within the first 6 balls, isn't there?
Yeah. They enjoyed Jerusalem. And now Ollie Stone is taking guard. He's going to face the first ball. England's lead is just 37. And, common sense suggests that this won't last long and that New Zealand will wrap it up by lunch. But who knows?
We were talking about the England sort of batting lineup and everything. But as you know, John, as a bowler, and I know as a bowler, you look at a batting lineup and you look at these sort of quirky techniques, and we were talking about that. You look down the night before round and you think, oh, who don't you fancy bowling at? Who's going to hurt me as a bowler? You know, and you sort of get a bit anxious if there's Gilchrist coming in at 7 or someone like that. But you look down this batting lineup and you think, well, hold on a minute, even if I don't bowl great, I'm going to get 3 for.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be rude there, but you just get that feeling of confidence.
Boult's going to bowl the first ball. In he goes and bowls to Stone, who's he's caught first ball, is he? Yep, that's that done then. First ball of the morning, and it's all over. Stone's on his way. Can't really believe I've seen that.
No, I'm a bit stuck.
I was actually going to ask Andy Zaltzman to work out what the current scoring rate per over is in England's innings, and work out therefore what time tomorrow these two have to bat till to set New Zealand 5 and over to win. But you've been saved. You've been saved.
Thanks, Ajaz.
It'd have been about 3 o'clock, I suppose. 1 ball, and out comes the groundsman with his wheelbarrow. Wow.
What a session. They're the kind of sessions I used to like in the field.
The umpires are walking off again.
No. It's like the okey cokey out there. They've just got to turn around now.
Over 8 was good this morning.
Oh, we should.
I don't know what to say about that.
No. Well, listen. Well, first of all, it was a great delivery by Boult. It just sort of like bit into the pitch and seemed away from Stone, who was just on the back foot, and just got a regulation edge through to the keeper, and that was that. And England have got.
I mean, it's almost funny.
No,
you shouldn't laugh. But crikey, those people are still settling in and coming into the ground.
Yeah, they've missed it.
So the groundsman, I mean, this is what you have to do as a groundsman. There's been one delivery.
Yeah.
But he's still going to mark the creases.
Well, there'll be a little bit of paint knocked off that front foot line.
And the captain's had a choice. What roller would you like? New Zealand captain? I think rather light one, actually. So he's bringing out the light roller. Oh, dear me. I shouldn't have taken the mickey out of you yesterday, by the way. When you were trying to do that COVID test and stuff. It was all going wrong, wasn't it, at the back here for the Southampton game.
Have you done yours?
Well, I have to be honest with you. It all went horribly wrong in the Agnew household yesterday. And all I'm going to throw in is this. That we counted up yesterday, and because of Emma doing her job, and us working the ECB and then ICC, we have in our kitchen now no fewer than 4 different COVID tests.
Wow.
They're all different.
Yeah.
It's like Frankenstein's laboratory in our kitchen.
Bubbling away.
There's test tubes, there's smoke.
Yeah.
And so last night I got a bit confused and well, they all came out and there's lots of prodding. The inside of my nose looks like the inside of a second-hand dartboard at the moment. It's had more things up there. And so I can only apologise to poor old Santosh, who worked here to the performance this morning, trying to repackage all these things. It's getting, but four different
Santosh has
tests.
In fact, Santosh has saved my life.
I mean, yours is gone somewhere, has it?
Mine has gone somewhere
off
now. Yes. And look at. I didn't like the sound of that weather though.
No.
What was that? Coming out, it starts Friday. Really looking forward to it. Actually, it's going to be two fantastic teams on and some wonderful cricketers. I mean, we've seen New Zealand here.
Yes.
You know, and they haven't got the likes of Southey and Williamson even in playing in this Test match. They're going to be two absolute belting cricket sides going toe to toe.
And New Zealand have a great build-up. I mean, what more could they want? Whereas India have been kind of knocking around a bit, practicing amongst themselves.
That might have something to do with it.
Well,
I think it's going to go down to the wire, but hopefully not impeded by the weather. But she said it's going to clear up Friday.
Final session, 6th day. Is that what you think?
Could be.
It might be. Well, some storms around. It will go into the 6th day.
Yeah, they're all going on Friday.
There have been some 6th day tests. The first ICC
There's old Mark
test
Wood,
final in Melbourne, indoor stadium. Was that a 6th day?
Oh, was that what the super test they played?
Was that
I think it might have been scheduled to be 6 days, but I don't think it lasted.
Didn't last that long. I think that was 6 days.
Well, you're down there with me, Ajaz, aren't you? You're doing it. Aren't you?
Yes. Well.
Of course, that's why you've had things stuck up.
As long as they work. Yeah. Otherwise, who knows?
Well, we're thankful to have the tests, though, of course, and everything's so, good.
Yeah,
I'm very
absolutely.
impressed.
So bad weather. As of course, the England women are playing against India on Wednesday. That's a Test match, and then Friday it's the World Test Championship final. New Zealand against India. We've been asked what we think today, haven't we? I said, heart says New Zealand.
Yeah.
Head goes with India, but you never know, do you?
No, I make it right about they've had some great preparation.
Yeah.
It's very similar pitch, probably down to Southampton, this one.
And they just look so focused and ready, don't they? They really do.
India, Jadeja, Ashwin, the Seamers,
Absolutely.
Kohli, all those batsmen.
Yep.
Oof.
Yep.
Strong sides, two very strong sides.
There were some crowds there too, some spectators.
122 all outs. England, it's their lowest score against New Zealand in a home test. It's the 9th time they've been bowled out by New Zealand for under 200 in this country. 5 of them were in the 1999 series, 4 test series that England lost 2-1, which was the last time New Zealand beat England in a series in this country. Unless there is a surprising turn of events over the next hour.
There might be.
Will be their third
How many
series.
do they need? How many do they need,
They
Andy?
need 38. And let's not forget, Tuffers, England did once bowl New Zealand out for 26.
Well, there you go. So they've got a few in the bank.
Yeah, well, there's those mental scars from 1955. They'll surely come to the fore.
Where was that?
I think it was Auckland. It was in England. Used to tour New Zealand generally after an Ashes series in Australia.
Yeah.
A very strong England team, probably the strongest England team that they've ever had in the mid-50s. They'd beaten Australia 3-1 and then went to New Zealand, and I think it was 200 New Zealand scored first innings, England 246, won by an innings and 20 runs.
There you go.
That's an interesting game, isn't it? Well, and it wasn't a wet one or anything. It didn't suddenly.
I don't know actually, but I'd hope on the stump mic we'll hear Bracey in the slips just chirping away at New Zealand. Remember 1955?
Come on, lads, 55. Well, we might do. Stuart Broad's loosening up, and Mark Wood loosening up. I mean, they're going to come out there and give it everything.
It's horrible now. I've been in this situation a few times. It's not pleasant because you feel a bit. What do you feel? Not a bit silly, just sort of a bit like, well, what are we doing here? Really?
I mean,
and you just pray. Actually, you just pray that the New Zealanders get on with it a bit, and then sort of finish it off.
Yeah. Yes. So those two are loosening up. The light roller is being pushed up and down at the moment. If it's joining us, well, England went out to bat, looking for great things. 122 for 9. And it lasted 1 ball.
You should do the lottery, John. You called that. You called that about 3 minutes before it happened. What happens if they're going to? You never know. He might nick it first ball.
He's
nicked it first ball.
That's the way it's going. The umpires are coming out for the second time this morning, and it's 11:06. So that's
Get the steps in.
That's what they are.
I hope they've got their little watches with the stepometers on them.
Yeah. So always round, it's slightly unusual. I don't know if that's happened before. I suppose it possibly has.
Yes.
Right, so Joe Root's going to call his team together, and I'm not sure what he's going to say to them, but he's waiting for Broad to pick up his floppy hat. And they're gathering in a circle there, and I think he might say, "Come on, lads, remember 1955."
Well, it's, for the bowlers, it's a chance to get a couple of cheapies, I suppose. That's what you'd be thinking as a bowler. Might get myself a little twofer.
Yeah, it was a brief huddle, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Got some bowling figures for New Zealand.
Yes.
It's a superb team effort once again.
Yeah.
Henry 3 for 36 from 12. Boult 2 for 34 from 10.1. The wonderful Neil Wagner 3 for 18 from 10 brilliant overs, and Ajaz Patel 2 for 25 from 9.
What would Ajaz Patel's match figures, Andy? Just because we didn't play the spinner, just sort of thinking for
4 for 59 Tuffers.
4 for 59. Yeah, that's not
23 overs.
Yeah, altogether. So I don't know. Was that a reason? I think one of the main reasons, looking back at this, I mean, we've been going on about it, but I think they kind of might have got the selection. Well, I think they did get the selection wrong. I also think they got the toss wrong. If they're going to play the 4 quicks, you have a bowl first, don't you?
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
As we said at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that to come out later, no doubt. Anderson will bowl from the City end. Certainly not the outcome that he wanted from his record-breaking appearance. And Latham and Conway need 38 to win and to inflict on Joe Root his first home series defeat. They're attacking. They've got 3 slips and a gully. And Latham will face the first ball. It's only the second ball of the morning. And he's ready now. And Anderson moves in past the umpires, playing round the wicket, and that passes harmlessly by outside the off stump. And collected by Bracey. So there's 3 slips of gully, backward point, mid-off, Broads at mid-on, a square leg, and Mark Wood's down to our right here at fine leg. I think some people have taken the view. Well, he's trying.
He's trying to whip up a store.
Sounds a bit hollow in there. New trumpeter, he's doing his best. In comes Anderson, then bowls wide of the off stump and moving wider. And Latham again allows that to go by.
They're just so well drilled, aren't they? This New Zealand side. I mean, I think England did quite well, or they would have got themselves back into the Test match, didn't they? Just a lead of, what was it, 70 or something like that.
Yeah.
But then Henry just came out and just put together a spell that just didn't leave that off stump, put so much pressure on a flat pitch, just got enough movement. But it was really the line and length he bowled that was just always putting the pressure on.
Anderson and Latham again allows that one a little closer to the off stump to go through, and he had a ball 81, 82 miles an hour.
No, exactly. But it was just everything, and then Wagner just everything, and with a fragile batting lineup, an inexperienced batting lineup, everything was posing a question, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be hooping round and seaming and swinging, just line and length, a little bit of movement, and you can have people in trouble.
Anderson from round the wicket bowls, and Latham again doesn't have to play. Well done, Simon Finch. That's a memorable debut for you too.
Yeah, well done.
Well, I hope he's not on a daily rate from the Barmy Army.
Or a note rate. He won't get many.
No, a rendition rate, we might call
rendition.
England's 122 is their 4th lowest total at Edgbaston. The lowest was 89 all out against West Indies in 1995. From memory, that was quite a horror pitch, wasn't it, Haggard?
In comes Anderson. And bowls outside the off stump. Low stroke again. He hasn't played it. Which year was that? Sorry?
95. That was the lowest total at Edgbaston.
Oh, yeah. Horrendous.
West Indies.
Horrendous.
England, and that's the only time England has been bowled out quicker in a Test innings at Edgbaston. That lasted 30 overs.
I think they were
having. Innings.
I think people were sitting out on the outfield before lunch on the Saturday. It was all over.
What day was that?
Well, it was. I'll tell you the game, because I was at the press box in those days was at the far end of the game where the New Zealand are changing. I was sitting there and looked at a very green pitch.
Oh.
I thought, Anderson bowls outside the off stump. Latham hasn't played at a single ball on that over. So it's still 38 to win. And had they lost the first Test, Was it Ajaz in the second test or something like that?
It was the third test. England had won at Lord's, Dominic Cork's debut, so it was 1-all.
So it was 1-all.
Fine series that ended 2-all.
It just seemed that the West Indies were a bit downcast, and they arrived. And I was watching them from up there, and you could see them one by one walk out and have a look at the pitch. Go, ooh, that looks a bit tasty.
Scuttle back.
So again, now the commentary box is this end. I remember the first ball, I suspect was Ambrose, ran in and bowled it to Atherton. I think it was either first or second ball of the match. Shot straight over his head off a length, went straight into the side screen.
Yes, I remember that was Latham. Yes, that's right. He's sort of gone.
It just went completely white.
Yeah,
it was just they just steamrolled it. Railingworth, I think, was supremo, and he had them in the nets, the indoor nets. To try and, it was just an utter minefield,
lodged in the side screen.
And I think that was what brought about the refunds for ticket holders. Was that game, because it ended so quickly. There's a full house at Edgbaston. It was all done before lunch on the third day, and that, I'm pretty sure, would really put the pressure on to give people refunds. Broad's on his way then, and still that's the seventh ball, and New Zealand's batsmen haven't been required to play a shot.
Are they playing for the draw, Ajaz?
Well, perhaps they are. Perhaps I could.
I think they'd struggle to do that.
Did you indulge my sort of potential question at all about how long England would have had to have batted today, and indeed tomorrow, to have set them 5 and over?
No, not yet, Ajaz. That game in 1995, England won 47, West Indies 300, and then England 89 all out.
Yeah. Broad again with 3 slips, runs in, bowls wide of the off stump. Conway lets that go by.
I remember the 46, was it, at Trinidad?
Oh, yes.
Which I was 12th man. There was a wonderful comment after that when Richie Richardson, I think, was interviewed, and he said, well, that was a bit of a tricky pitch or something. He said, how would you have played it? He said, we would have played more shots.
It was an incredible spell of cricket.
It was. I don't think they'll be able to, even New Zealand, I don't think will be able to manufacture draw.
I don't think so, but they haven't played at a ball yet. Broad again, moves in, bowls, and now they do, and he's going to get 4 for it, I think, or it's certainly heading towards the boundary. It might not go all the way. Burns is after it, they'll get 3. Latham drags it back a yard inside the boundary edge, down there below the scoreboard. So New Zealand are off and running. They need 38 to win.
I don't mean to keep sort of criticising the mindset and techniques and what have you, but that was just a perfect illustration of it. Conway there, left-hander, just opened the bat, leave, and then that one was a bit straighter to him, dead bat. It's that push-out shot, that then brings in the slip quarter, but then he just let the ball come onto the bat, got his runs for it, chanceless. That's what England didn't do.
Yeah, no, quite right, Tuffers.
And is that technique? Is that, I don't know, is that knowing your own game, or how are you going to go and compile runs when you're under pressure? I don't know. Not great though.
There are more questions than answers.
I think there's a song like that, isn't there?
I think there might be.
Yeah. I think you play on your ukulele, don't you?
If it rains down at Southampton,
we might be getting it.
It's been quite a musical test match, this, hasn't it? Don't you think? And goes broad round the wicket, and bowls, and Latham plays no stroke. We've had Will Young.
Oh, what a fine innings he played.
He did, until at the very end. He didn't want to go, did he?
No, well, not surprising, but I mean, it wasn't a wild Yahoo or anything. It was just a good shot, which was a good ball by Lawrence, which he got his first test with.
I'm afraid he had to leave right now, didn't he? Yeah. He didn't want to go. He didn't want to go. Then we had Rolling Back the Years yesterday. Who sang that one?
I don't know. Simply Red, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, of course.
There we go.
And there might be a bit of red wine tonight.
There might be.
If England managed to beat Croatia.
In goes Broad round the wicket, and that's again run away down that area to third man. Broad's got his hands on his hips, staring towards Anderson, who's at mid-on, and again they're going to get 3. Which does rather illustrate, you're right, about how little bat movement there is. It's a still bat, the ball hits it. Because if there had been any more of a push, well, it would have gone for 4 in that position, or of course Nick to slip. But
there you go.
But it would have gone for 4 with the momentum of the bat.
Yeah, but it's that. Well, and this Rory Burns has been the shining light. Actually, he's got some runs in that top order. But that second wicket, the way he got out in the second innings, when he went after it, didn't he? Just sort of got the nick. And they've caught brilliantly as well, New Zealand. I don't think they've dropped the catch, have they? Mitchell's been outstanding in the slips.
Yes. They look as if they want it.
Yeah, well, I think they're obviously keying themselves right up for this game, aren't they?
Yep.
Round the corner.
Broad round the wicket, bowls, and that's caught behind.
There you go.
And it's Conway. He's had such an excellent series, but he's pushed at one there. He's caught the England disease. And he pushed there, driving between mid-off and broad. He's picked up a wicket. And New Zealand are 6 for 1.
It's
They're
on.
chasing 38 to win.
It's on.
Is it on?
It's on.
Is it really on? Could be.
It's on, and that's, well, it perfectly illustrates what we were discussing there. That's the first time in 2 test matches I've seen him actually then want to sort of like get those arms out at the ball and perhaps push it through an extra cover, and that's then when the nick happens, especially with the new ball. You've got a wicket. Well done, Stuart Broad. Good bit of bowling. And nicely caught by Bracey.
Yes.
Phew.
But Devon Conway's finished the series with 300 runs, one of only 10 players, 306 runs, one of only 10 players to make 300 or more runs in his first 2 test matches.
He looks a find.
And how did he get there? Did he get
3?
He got 3, thanks. 6 for 1, chasing 38. And the new batsman is young.
He played a lovely innings, didn't he?
He did.
We were just talking about it. Third test match came out, looked, you think, there might be a bit of a, no Williamson, young chap. In his third test match, got his head down, didn't he?
Yeah, did
wonderfully.
So 32 needed by New Zealand. But, there's another wicket for Broad to chalk up to his bulging sack. Anderson's on his way. Round the wicket. Is there any bowls? Oh, and beats.
I told you, it's on.
Latham
It's
there.
on, John.
Yeah.
It's on. It's doing all sorts out there. Come on. Well, it was 120 would have been nice, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Under 120 lead, or...
You never know what happens in that sort of situation.
No, you don't, but 30 you do.
Anderson wheels round in the sunshine. It's a beautiful morning, and comes round the wicket, and that's turned away into the leg side by Latham. Captain, of course, of this match. He'd love to be there. Love to be there at the end.
I think he's going to be probably only the 3rd captain to have won or something, wasn't there? That was the
tough, is it?
He'll be the 3rd stand-in captain in a touring team in England to win a test match.
That was the one I was looking
stand-in
for.
captain.
Yes,
How on earth do you research that?
Well,
name the other 2, crikey. Okay. Right.
The 3rd standing captain. That was a belter.
Are they fairly recent or not?
No.
I've got no chance then. 6 for 1. Anderson moves in, bowls down the leg side. That'll be 4. Past Bracey, and it's leg bys. Thumping, you heard it clatter into the advertising hoardings below us.
I think one of them was Pip Forrester.
No.
Oh, wasn't it? What was his
No,
name?
you're mixing up with Tip Foster.
Oh, Tip Foster.
Tip Foster. That's a difference. You're mixing up your stats.
Sorry, it's just a world of stat up here. I'm sorry.
Tip Foster.
Tip Foster made it. That was he came up with Conway's debut 200. He has the highest debut score, 287.
I've got it all
back at the SCG in 1903.
Sorry.
The 2 stand-in captains to win Test in England: Neil Harvey for Australia in 1961 when Richie Benaud missed the Lord's Test, and Jackie McGlue of South Africa in 1955 won Test 3 and 4. Tour captain Jack Cheetham captained Test 1, 2 and 5 and lost a lot.
That was it. That was the belter. That's why it stayed in the memory.
10 for 1. In comes Anderson. Bowls, and that's pushed into the offside. Latham wasn't quite entirely sure about that. Burns or Field. And it's still another run, though. And they're chalking them off, really. 27 more are required.
There's something auspicious for England. When they bowled New Zealand out for 26, the first wicket fell 6 for 1.
Ooh.
Same as today.
Really? So they've got off to a decent start then.
That's a no ball, so another one's going to go.
Is it still 2 for a no ball? No.
It's just quite confusing when it's this late call, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, perhaps something should go up on the screen.
Well, in the IPL, they have a siren.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Something like that would help.
Yeah. You've got to be looking in the right place at the right time to make sure you see the umpire with his arm out. Yeah, it is. It goes a bit late. 4 slips then lined up for Young. It's his first ball. Anderson comes in and bowls to him outside the off stump. And he raises the bat, lets it go by, and then heads off for a stroll into the leg side.
John, now you are a swing and fast bowler. Now,
I think was.
It was. Sorry, yes, was. Is that length just a bit short? Henry's length was a bit fuller than that, wasn't it? Quite a bit fuller than that.
If you're swinging the ball, and it is swinging, you're almost bowling half volleys, really.
Almost, yeah. Just a touch back from that.
You want them to think it's a half volley, drive, and you're giving it that extra bit of length to swing.
You're not trying to sort of hit a forward defensive, are you?
Here's Anderson again. Bowls, that's fuller.
That's better.
But quite straight.
Yeah.
And runs down for Burns to field that backward point. The crowd doing their best here. It's a rather forlorn sight. We've got, I think, some bananas there. Half a dozen. A bunch of bananas sitting halfway up the Hollies stand.
Yeah.
If you see those barmaids, look out. My
10 of them are there.
I don't think it's specified how many.
I thought you said 10.
Perhaps the
rotations barmaids.
Bavarian. What's a Bavarian barmaid?
That's what you said. You did say that word, didn't you? Yeah.
Anderson bowls and he leans into a drive. Now the chase for Burns out towards that area. They've taken 2, and they'll come back for the 3rd. I don't know what necessarily stands a Bavarian barmaid apart from any other type of barmaid, but there we go. Tuffers.
Who taught you the lyrics to 12 Days of Christmas? You got your 10 Bavarian barmaids in it.
That's quite an improved lyric. Tuffers, thoughts from you, and then Dan Norcross is coming in here.
Yes. Well, at least Stuart Broad has got a wicket for his efforts. But an amazing start to the day. First ball. Ollie Stone hung the bat out at 1 to Trent Boult and got the edge, and they all walked off. It was quite an amazing start. Dad, good morning.
It was properly hilarious, wasn't it?
We did. I don't know what we did. We did chuckle. I don't know whether it was a chuckle or just a bit of a sort of surprise.
I squeaked.
We sort of squeaked a bit.
I squeaked. I was working next door for a different outlet, and I hadn't quite prepared myself for it. I obviously knew that notionally it was possible, but when it did happen, yes, it was hard to get the words out in between the mirth, really. It was emblematic of what's happened in what has been a sort of comprehensive autopsy of Englishness in this series. As Broad is in, and that's worked up to mid-on off the front foot to Jimmy Anderson by Young, and there's no run. It's sort of exposed the confusion at the heart of everything that's happening in English cricket at the moment.
It feels like it, doesn't it?
Bracey at 7, keeping wicket when he's a number 3. Whereas New Zealand, they bring in another wicket-keeper, Blundell, who's done it before. When Williamson is out, they bring in Young, who looks like a number 3. They have likes for like, Henry comes in for Saudi, a right arm quick bowler.
There does feel a bit of confusion at the moment, you're right. And I think that all comes from India.
Oh, possibly, yes. Broad in, that's wide of the off-stump, left alone. No run.
Well, I think, is it something to sort of do with perhaps, and I understand that there was, these bubbles and everything going on and that, but there's sort of rotation and sort of not quite knowing, hold on, you want to settle side as a test side, you want to know where your mates changing, who your batting partnerships are, who your bowling partnerships are, and this whole sort of like feeling of rotation, I think, has sort of perhaps sort of caught up.
Moeen Ali coming in for Dom Best for one game. Bowling better, now go home.
Yeah, Jack Leach, is he going to play? Never plays.
Never plays. Broad into Young, worked into the onside, picked up by Lawrence at mid-wicket. There's no run.
Is that a sort of a feeling that perhaps has just eased into it?
But the annoyance, I think, and it must be difficult for Joe Root, because after 3 test matches away this year, they won 2 in Sri Lanka.
Yes, everything was going so well.
And then they beat India.
I know. And then decided to rotate everything.
Then it's all just gone vertically downward since then. Yeah. And it's a very young England team against a very experienced New Zealand team as well. Everything seems strange, doesn't it? Outside the off-stump, through to the keeper, left alone. Well, England play more test matches than any other country, and yet they find themselves putting a side out against New Zealand. And New Zealand look like they've been doing this for all their players have been playing for 10 years, sort of thing.
Have you got any other answers?
Not really.
Well, listen, there's a few big lads to come back.
There are
isn't there?
Stokes and Butler.
Stokes and Butler will give
Wokes.
that. And Wokes.
Curran. You just reminded me.
Yeah.
I think I heard on the grapevine that Chris Wokes is going to appear on the No Balls podcast on Tuesday with Alex Hartley and Kate Cross.
Excellent.
Big money signings as Broad is in. That's driven nicely, firmly up to mid-on. There's no run. So, yeah, the No Balls podcast we launched on BBC Sound. It's a terrific podcast with two wonderful broadcasters and the Brummy Botham. Yeah. And they'll no doubt be asking him, what were you doing last week? Why couldn't you turn up to the cricket?
Yeah, it was
What's
down
your
the road.
excuse? Yeah. You at a wedding or something? Not yours. Were you picking up an aunt from the airport? Was that the problem?
Yeah, I know. It just all feels
a bit village.
Yeah, a little bit village. Yes. Yeah.
Here's Broad in with 3 slips and a gully into Young, and Young leaves this close to his off stump. There's no run. I mean, amidst all this, we do have to say at the end of the over, New Zealand 15 for 1, that Stuart Broad has bowled beautifully in this match. He didn't bowl awfully well at Lords, but he's found his... What are his figures overall in this match now, Andy? Because he's been the one England bowler who's really made it talk, hasn't he? Really got to move.
Yeah. 4 for 48 in the first innings, 1 for 6, so 5 for 54. There were 3 threes in the first 3 overs of this innings, Dan.
Oh, is that yes? Come on,
excellent.
Please.
It's the joint most there's been in the last 20 years in the first 3 overs of a Test innings. That's as far back as our ball-by-ball data goes. So something for this crowd to have savoured on this otherwise disappointingly brief day of
If you're
cricket.
listening in around the ground, you have witnessed history. As Anderson starts a new over, left alone outside the off stump. There's no run. And, do you know...
Could easily have a game of T20 after this, couldn't they?
A beer match. Make it properly village. That's what we used to do.
Yes.
Yes, I remember,
if you're going to do something, do it properly.
Exactly. I remember losing by 3:30 in the afternoon in one game, and we just said, beer match.
Them up again.
Yeah, reverse the order. Did a bit better the second time, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a bit of sadness as well. I mean, speaking to fans who have arrived, Anderson is in. It's left alone by Latham through the keeper, no runner. There was some at our hotel, there was some on the way to the car, and this is just sort of... They're not angry.
No.
They're just, I was really looking forward today. Got the tickets, beautiful day.
Yeah.
I mean, actually...
Packed me esky.
Yeah, New Zealand couldn't be better guests, because they're going to wrap this up in time for people to go and watch England in the football.
They're very accommodating.
Very accommodating.
I know, I found that. They're lovely people.
Lovely
really
people. Lovely people. If you're going to get absolutely thrashed, get thrashed by a Kiwi. Anderson is in, worked into the onside by Latham, and they come through for a quick single shot at the stumps, misses, and the ball bounces off Latham, but they won't run because, of course, that's not etiquette. 16 for 1, 22 more required for victory at the end of the over. Latham 5, Young 3.
If we hadn't have lost a day for rain at Lords, we would have probably lost that as well, mightn't we?
You'd think.
Well,
I mean, this is how brilliant they've been. They gave a declaration that was extremely generous, really.
Yeah.
273 and 75. You don't see that.
Yeah.
And then England said, no, we're not going to go for it.
No, and I think you made the point yesterday that was a mistake, wasn't it?
I think so.
It just
set the tone.
Yes.
It was timorous.
Yes.
It suggested we weren't prepared to go toe-to-toe, really.
No.
Anderson in, and that's left alone outside the off stump. No run. Well, by we, I mean, I'm putting myself in the shoes of England,
Yeah, and professional sportsmen, well, anybody who plays sport, you get those little vibes, don't you? Yeah. Sometimes you think, I don't think he fancies it.
They're a bit fearful, aren't they?
Yeah, and you pick up on that and you can run with it, can't you?
I think, that's exactly what New Zealand have done. They've done it. They've done it in the gentlest of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, you see other sides when they're about to win, totally understandable, but they get a bit crowy, a bit gloaty towards the back end of a game, Anderson in again, and Young defends the front foot, pushes the offside, there's no run. You get that sort of vibe when the inevitable is coming about.
Yeah.
And in fact, New Zealand were nothing like that. They just kept going, just kept taking the wickets, kept smiling.
Yep.
And today, when they got that wicket, there was no great big gloat fest, was there? They ran straight off the pitch.
Yeah. Going to put my feet up for the next couple of days to get ready for Friday.
Phew, done. Yes, it was marvellous. There are 2 more tests on BBC Radio this week, by the way. England's women playing India from Wednesday in Bristol. I'll be at that, as will Isabel Westbury and Ali Mitchell. Dexter outside the off stump, left alone. Well, I say poked at but maybe tried to pull the back at the same time, unconvincingly. The ball goes through the keeper. The Hollies stand appeal again, as they have done regularly, and there's no run. 4-day test match at Bristol on Wednesday, and then the World Test Championship final. Tough as you'll be at that.
I am.
On Friday, 8 years old, back into the bubble.
Yay.
Yes, and Andy will be your scorer.
Oh, Andy, you're there.
In a shed.
Oh,
Yes.
no, you're not there. You're in the...
I'll
Oh,
be on a Zoom call.
Oh,
Apparently
okay.
we have a small commentary box, so
Yes.
Lovely. I'll do it.
I'll be phoning it in.
Okay.
Yeah. And you'll be thinking, can I get the bedroom right next to the commentary box? That's what it'll be all about.
That was my
Just reduce
finest.
that
was my
wall.
finest hour.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? I think your commute to work was about 4 seconds.
Yeah. 3 large paces.
Broad into Latham, played it away from his body into the offside, square of the wicket, and they'll get through for a single. 17 for 1, Andy.
That's Tom Latham's 4,000th run in Test cricket.
Yeah, we'll play.
He's reached it in his 58th Test match. He's just the 9th New Zealander to reach 4,000 Test runs. Before him, Kane Williamson, Martin Crowe, Ross Taylor, Nathan Astle, John Wright, Stephen Fleming, Brendan McCullum, and Daniel Vittori. Fine left arm.
All right.
Ended up averaging 30 with the bat.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
Shows what's possible.
Yeah. Must be great to have a left-arm swimmer who could do that.
Latham's recent form since the start of 2017, averaging fractionally under 47 of openers who've batted 25 or more times in that time. Only David Warner has a higher average.
Some good names there. He's joined.
Broad into Young, and he lets this go by outside the off stump. It's a bit too wide. Opening the batting has been a very difficult task throughout history, of course, but over the last few years it's been particularly tricky, especially in England. So those figures for Latham are very solid indeed. And then they found Devon Conway to open with him. The contrast between England's woes at the top of the order for the last 3 or 4 years, and New Zealand have developed Latham, and then they've unearthed Conway. Their cup runneth over, and the man who's got that cup has brought it into the commentary box next to me, and it's spilling out all over his trousers. Jeremy Coney is with me. I'm talking about the New Zealand Cup, don't worry, which runneth over. Attempted pull to this ball, doesn't come off for Young, and Broad almost sort of tries to give the batsman a bit of chirrup, which I don't think is necessarily appropriate in this situation, and there's no run. Welcome, Jeremy.
I hope I've plugged into the right thing here. There's a number, it looks like a green one, so there we are. I'm on green.
You're loud and clear.
Yes, look, and there we are. Wonderful sound engineer next door. Loves her cricket.
She can't get enough of it.
No, that's right.
Broad at the top of his mark, bathed in sunshine, runs away from us into Young. And Young lets a full ball go outside the off stump. There's no run. This is just meticulously brilliant from New Zealand. They're not seduced by the target of 38 to say, well, we'll go after it. They're just playing the natural game. They'll get to the 38 in their own good time. Might take till about noon. If it takes till about noon, they won by 9 wickets, and all is well with the world, isn't it?
It's been an interesting two-match series, hasn't it, really? I mean, there is an element of the surreal about it, in the sense that the crowds are here for the first time, and they've been wonderful.
Broad in, and Young and lets another ball go by outside the off. A little bit of shape on that, just a little bit inward shape taken by Bracey.
But it was a late addition to a schedule, wasn't it? Is it schedule or schedule? I don't. Anyway,
I go schedule.
You know what I mean?
I do. Yes.
There was an element of it not being a World Test Championship series or matches. I think for both teams, you could argue that there were large elephants in rooms.
Oh, what's the large elephant in the New Zealand room?
Well, the India match in the final.
I see.
Looking
yes.
forwards.
Broad in and driven at and missed by Young. A play and a miss, a rare example. The ball just shaped away this time. The previous ball had come in a touch. That one just went away a touch. And at the end of the over, the 6th over of the innings, New Zealand 17 for 1, require 38 to win after taking the 10th England wicket with the very first ball of the day. Ollie Stone caught by Blundell off the bowling of Boult.
And for England, of course, India and then Australia. So I think New Zealand were a little bit lucky and fortunate there because of the venue for a start. Playing at Lord's for a New Zealander is a very important event in your cricketing life. You don't get there very often. It's been 6 years since this group have come over and played in England, and a lot of the players won't get many test matches at Lord's. I mean, Taylor would be, I guess, the most capped and played against England at Lord's.
Anderson runs in, start a new over, and Latham works the ball into the onside short mid-on. There's no run.
But it focuses the mind. You don't have to think about elephants at all.
Yes.
Or any kind of
because you're up for it.
Exactly. You're there, and you know, the final probably didn't even enter their minds. There are 2 new names because of that match on those honours boards.
Yes. Yes. Anderson, top of his mark from the City end, comes in to Latham, and Latham works this slightly aerially up to mid-on off the back foot. There's no run again, it's broad field.
So I think that helped the sort of the purgatorial vacuum that these matches, in a sense, have been played in. And I think that venue helped a great deal because of that. It was easy to obliterate any distractions, in other words. And I think the other thing about this New Zealand side is that they've become tremendously competitive between themselves.
Anderson is in. Latham drives beautifully through mid-on for 4. It's a lovely shot. It was a bit full, yes, but it was the economy of movement and effort. Just a little push drive up to the boundary. 4 more, 21 for 1.
Well, that happened in a vacuum too, didn't it? Really, it was just bowled, and there it banged, down it went, no one moved.
The throw down, thank you. Yes.
A lovely sort of check drive, wasn't it? But yeah, they are very competitive between themselves. Look at the way Henry has achieved in this match and out-bowled the England seamers in England by doing so. But at the same time...
Anderson in, and Latham lets this go by. There's a bit of shape away, just came off the seam and jagged into the gloves of Bracey.
A man who's been around this New Zealand sort of setup for a number of years now and has only played a handful of test matches, and yet is still as keen to say, if you don't bowl very well, I'm going to put my very best case forward to be selected in conditions that I know. And down in the south where I've played a whole season for Kent, but it's next door to Southampton. Yeah. So there are lots of things that he can take from this game.
Anderson in, Latham works this in again in the air slightly off the hip to short square leg. There's no run.
To be included in that conversation that New Zealand selectors will inevitably have.
Well, isn't it extraordinary? I mean, you were saying this to me before, but you look at the resources of the 2 nations, and New Zealand have replacements for everyone. You know, Conway came in really as a replacement for Blundell at the top of the order.
He was on debut.
Debut gets 200.
Yeah.
Young comes in for one of the best batters in the world. Williamson doesn't look out of place. Gets a beautiful unruffled 80. Blundell then comes in for Watling. Anderson in, played into the offside to Rory Burns at backward point. There is no run. End of the over. 21 for 1 New Zealand, needing 38 to win. They've got Henry, as you say, for Southey. They've got 2 left-arm spinners. So Patel comes in for Santner. They've got 2 left-arm swing bowlers. They've got every base covered. They've got right-arm bowlers, left-arm bowlers. I suppose
they don't have an off-spinner.
They don't have an off-spinner.
And it's always, I think, nice, personally, if you can bowl with 3 and 2. So 3 seamers and 2 spinners, and the spinners, one's an offie, and one turns it one way and the other one does the other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the ideal.
Yeah.
We were lucky in '86 that we had that kind of that balance, if you like.
But there aren't a lot of spinners out there at the moment. India have got a few, but you know, England don't have many. No. Australia don't have many.
New Zealand don't have many.
You know.
No, that's right. That's right.
There's a paucity of spinners out there. Yeah. South Africa have traditionally not had any. Broad is in, starting a new over outside the off stump through the keeper, no run.
Well, England have Leach, who's taken 60-odd wickets in his first 15-16 tests, averaged fractionally under 30. Moeen Ali, his last 11 tests, taken over 50 wickets, averaged mid-20s. So the options are there, they're just not on the pitch.
No, well, Moeen Ali would have been the balance, wouldn't he? He could have been the spinning all-rounder that England eschewed, because they went in there with 6 batters, a keeper and 4 bowlers, and then once you've got 4 bowlers, then you're worried about having only 3 seamers if one of them breaks down. So Moeen Ali would have balanced that side if he'd come in at 6 or 7. Broad in, and that's on the pads, tucked away down to long leg. They'll come through for just the single, 22 for 1.
So, I mean, it's just to finish that. I mean, Young, we're looking at Young at the moment, who's again looking reasonably composed. I don't want to put the Cobos on him, but I mean, what happens if something in the opening department doesn't work for New Zealand? Because he's done a bit of work and he came over here especially to play at Durham and so on. Had a couple of results. What happens if Ross Taylor doesn't get runs and looks awkward and so on in 4 innings? Suddenly he's got a chance. And so he comes into the conversation. So there's reasons you could go through every player.
Broad in for the left-handed Latham, who pushes away from his body into space on the offside and get a couple of runs here as Rory Burns has to run from backward point to collect. 24 for 1. Latham with that moves to 12.
Even Ajaz Patel,
yes,
who wouldn't have thought he might have got a match. But because the surfaces are such and a bit softer here, you can see the footmarks of bowlers, and so they become targets of spinners as the game progresses. And he didn't get the first game, but he's not some little roly-poly chap who can't bat and doesn't really, he walks into bowl. It's not that at all. He's got 4 very important wickets in this game, and he's done a very good job for his captain at different times. He hasn't been expensive.
Brought in again to Latham. Latham lets this go by outside the off stump.
He did get a useful 20 and got 27 partnership with the last wicket. So he has done things that brings him into the conversation as well with the selectors when they consider Southampton. So everybody is actually pushing. You don't get many chances. We only ever play England in 2 tests. We don't play the 3 or 4 tests any longer. It's always 2. I don't know why, but it is. And so you don't get these chances very often.
And when you get them, you take them. And the thing is, they have taken them, haven't they? Broad in to Latham. Short. Latham thinks about the pull, doesn't. Lets it go through to the keeper. No run. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's been incredibly impressive. It's been almost a sort of evisceration of English cricket. The contrast is always, the ledger is stronger on one side. You just take every single part of each side and you say, well, New Zealand's veteran bowlers, Southey and Boult, have out-bowled England's veteran bowlers. The keepers have out-kept. The openers have out-opened. The middle order is out-batted. The captaincy is outwitted. I mean, everything about it. There's been boldness, audacity with the declaration, frankly, which wasn't taken up. The contrast between the 2 sides is stark. There's broad bowls pushed into the onside. A little hesitation, and that would have been out with a direct hit. Latham strangely going for a quick single, and Wood had 1 stump to aim at, through underarm and missed the stumps, and they therefore got through. 26 for 1, 12 more required for victory.
But a good calculated run from Latham. He knew that it was going to be tight, and he ran hard right from the moment he decided the run was on. He knew that Wood was right-handed, and he knew that Wood would attack it, so it was the angle to the stumps was always closing down to 1 stump rather than 2 or 3. It would have to be a backhander, probably, because that's on the right side of him. So, there were measures of thoughtfulness.
Brought in, full, driven off the bottom of the bat. Sort of Yorker length up to Wood at mid-off. No run.
Having said all that, it was quite tight.
It was, and he would have been out with a direct hit. Yes. And it wasn't that far off, actually, because it was a good effort from Wood. He did pick up cleanly and then sort of shoveled it two-handed towards the stumps. 27 for 1. 11 more required for victory. The inevitable victory after England lost their 10th and final wicket to the first ball of the day. Broad in to complete the over with 3 slips. And that's left alone outside the off stump. End of the over. 27 for 1, 11 more to win. Jeremy, you're on your long run. Keep going.
No,
you keep
I don't
going.
mean to be at all.
No. Fill your boots. Fill your boots. And then it will be Jonathan Agnew.
Well, it's just, I guess, from a player's perspective, and being around for 40 to 50 years, we don't get to these circumstances very often. We've had a couple of victories since 1930, which is our first tour of England, which is a long time ago, 90 years or thereabouts. And this is only the third time. We are within striking point, Jonathan.
You certainly are. 27 for 1. You enjoy it. And back goes Latham, pushing another single. Nice for him, too, as acting captain, to be there if he is there towards the end. And even nicer if he hits the winning runs, too, to get the pure romance of the occasion sorted out. 28 for 1.
Look at Joe Root's recent form. 5 tests without a half century. It's the first time in his entire test career that he's had a 5-test sequence without reaching 50. Prior to that, he'd made those 3 huge hundreds in the winter, including 2 double hundreds. Look at his home form. Since the Headingley test of 2017 against West Indies, when he declared and England lost, he's averaging just 31 in home tests with 100 in 37 innings.
Anderson bowls and Young turns that to square leg, and there's no run. I'm indebted to Robert Flint. Hello, Robert, your letter arrived just in time. I don't get many letters these days, but thank you so much. All about Dennis Amos and how much you enjoyed listening to Dennis the other day when he came in. All sorts of facts and figures here. Did you know this, Andy? Dennis Amos had every first-class score from 0 to 112. Every score from 0 to 112. Then comes Anderson bowls, and it cuts back a little, and Young plays him down quite late. Lots of stats here. So thank you, Robert. And it's very interesting. He's a lovely chap. And he says, I did say to Dennis, I don't think that I got you out, but apparently I did. 1983, LBW Agnew 4. 1984, LBW Agnew 122. 1984, Court Parsons Bowl Agnew 115. I wonder where these people were. Parsons was catching at the time, probably out deep mid wicket or something. Then 1987, 29. So I think he would think he's well set most of the time. Here's Young, and takes his bottom hand off the bat handle. So that's picked up there at square leg. Thank you, Robert, and I hope you're enjoying your day. And they're still enjoying it here. Those that are at Edgbaston, they can sit and watch the football later, and they can do so in company too, which I get a bit confused with the rules of what these days. You wanted to go and watch the football with your mates, but at least here you can do quite legitimately, putting on the big screen.
How did you get on yesterday? Did your team played in the draw?
We had a very fighting draw.
Right.
A Welsh. In comes Anderson bowls, and that's pushed away.
Well.
Back up the pitch by Young. Yes, I'm breathing fire as a Welsh dragon for these Euros.
Good.
I haven't got to commentate on it like the 96 ones.
Well, I had a shocker.
Oh.
Was it 3-0?
Oh dear.
To Belgium? Yes.
Who was that? I'm not really up.
Russia.
Oh, Russia?
Yes.
You'd old Vladimir.
I did. Yes.
Oh, I can see he was being a bit of a pair.
Oh, dear me.
Oh.
And not even a yellow card in sight. That's what I had to go for those.
Oh. Anderson bowls, and that's sliced down to slip. But stopped by Crawley. Crowd catch that. They're all up. No, come on. It bounced halfway between the batsman and the fielder. I know we've been going in there for about 50 minutes now, but you should be able to see that.
Jeremy and I were walking back from the ground last night. I had a statistics query from a man dressed as a giant coloured crayon.
Yes. Excellent.
Yes.
Who asked whether there had ever been a test match in which 5 players have reached 80 and no one scored 100.
Oh, good question from the crayon.
A good question from the giant crayon.
Yes.
The answer is this is the 3rd such test match. England-Australia at Old Trafford in 1968. There were 5 players who reached 80, high score of 88 in that game. Pakistan-England, Karachi in March 1973. 5 players reached 80, the highest score in the match was 99. This match, 5 80s, no one's reached 83. So this is the first test in which 5 players have scored 80, but no one's reached 88.
Well done, the crayon. And how is he shaping up, dare we ask, after a long day in Holliston?
He was good, though. He was we went down Pershaw.
Yes.
Long road.
Yes, it is.
On the other side of the road, and they were singing things like da-ta, da-ta. Oh. And then we had to cross the road at that point and join them.
Yes. Stones in the attack. His first ball's worked into the leg side for a single by Latham, and New Zealand need 9 more to win the match.
So he was a very popular...
You'd have enjoyed that. You'd have loved that.
He did, actually. He did.
Any song about data and statistics.
Absolutely.
And averages.
And they'd all come dressed as crayons, so I assume they were planning to do a good colourful scorecard between them.
Yes. Well, that sounds a very, very sensible question for that time of the evening after a full day in the Hollies stand. 29 for 1. Stone from the pavilion end. Hopeless cause here for England. 9 more to win. With Young on strike, and Stone moves in and bowls a ball that swings away a little, keeps rather low, and Bracey gathers it down by his boots. And the fielders are running around a bit and jogging here and there, but it's a horrible feeling when you're just staring down the barrels of defeat. What do you do as captain? Do we see an over of Sibley when it all is lost, or something like that?
I hope not. I hope not.
Let's have Alistair Cook got a wicket. Horrible Bob Willis impersonation. Who was it he had caught down the leg side? Some poor Indian batsman, wasn't it? In goes Stone, bowls outside the off stump. Ishant Sharma, that's right. It was a horrible moment. I mean, it was...
Yeah.
I think he might have been round the wicket, and he came in doing a big Bob Willis impersonation with the arm pumping and everything else.
Well, Gower did it in the second test when we won.
Yes.
At Trent Bridge, was it? Yeah, I think it might have been. And I think he threw the last ball as well.
He was a horrible bowler.
So he threw it, and so we got the no ball as well.
Yeah, no, I'm afraid for all his beautiful languid skills at the crease, he was an atrocious bowler. And goes Stone and bowls outside the off stump. Here's runs. Probably 4. Burns in pursuit. Out to deep point. And that brings them down to within striking distance now. 5 to win. And it's 33 for 1. There's a lone, perhaps not a lone, but it looks to be a lone New Zealand supporter out there waving his New Zealand flag very proudly.
That game in 1986, the second test, Jeremy Coney as captain, New Zealand chasing just 77 to win. So
Stone bowling, and Young allows that to pass by outside the off stump.
Crow was batting at the end too, wasn't he?
Crow was 48 not out.
Yeah.
Jeremy Coney, captain's innings, 20 not out. David Gower's bowling analysis, 0.0 overs, 0 for 4.
Yeah.
Because he bowled the no ball.
Bowl the ball.
And that was the bowling practice that we were given at Leicestershire, that us bowlers, playing Surrey tomorrow, lads, Sylvester Clarke and co. So you bowl at everybody, and you look round and say, well, who's going to give me a bit of practice? And Gower's utter filth would come on, and that would prepare you for Sylvester Clarke. In goes Stone, and Bolso's dragged it on. That's a shame for Young. The full ball outside the off stump, and his eyes lit up. And he went to clatter it through the covers, but he's got an inside edge, and Stone has a wicket, and he deserved that too. He had a couple of missed chances in the first innings, of course. So at least he's got something to show for it here, but Young trying to drive with a crooked bat and drag the ball into his stumps.
Yeah, it was so wide, in fact. It was an attempt at a square drive, and he's just closed the face a bit, and it's a bit unfortunate it's come back onto the base of the off stump. So Will Young goes for 8. New Zealand loses second wicket, 33. Not too many required now. Now I guess Taylor.
Yep, out he comes, stepping out to Edgbaston. I guess probably for the last time. Who knows with some of these players, the longevity that they have. But one of New Zealand's great servants, 37 years old, battled away well in the first innings. He's coming out here with only 5 needed.
And it carries on the discussion that I was having with Dan Norcross too, Jonathan. Everybody in that New Zealand side have got something to put forward. And I think the way that Taylor batted in the last innings, of those last 40 runs that he actually got his alignment right, and he stood up a bit more, and he started to move his foot forward. And for the first time in about 3 years, the runs were coming through cover, and they were coming through sort of extra cover, those sorts of areas. He doesn't normally play there at all, so he's improved since he's been here, and he's always trying to quieten people about his age.
Yes.
There's all that, he's reached that age. I mean, he has.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he wants to get runs and show, I can do this.
5 to win. Latham on strike. Mark Wood's bowling now way outside the off stump, and Latham always puts his back out there, reaching for that one. It would have been certainly a one-day wide, but Wood getting away with that loosener. At the moment, 33 for 2, the New Zealand score. They need 38 to win. And disappointing, to put it mildly, from England's perspective. Lots of questions. I don't know how many answers they have. But, before, of course, The Test team meet again in August. It's such a long way away. Then comes Wood, bowls, and he bowls himself off his feet there, slips over. Broad fields a defensive shot from Latham at mid-on. So, as I was saying earlier, 2 rounds of championship games, and not everyone gets the 2 rounds, but most of the batsmen, the likely batsmen, do. But there's then another 3 weeks after that before the first Test against India. So any good that might be done in that time, you have to say, is going to be much worthless. 33 for 2. Wood in bright sunshine races in and bowls. That's flicked away firmly. That'll be 4. Very nicely played by Latham, and he's given himself the chance here, the acting captain, of scoring the winning run.
Lovely piece of timing, wasn't it? Just stood there and worked it away. Just a little turn, that's all. Nothing too flourish. No flourish about it, really. Economy of movement.
1 to win. Fielding close then. And it will be a very proud moment for Latham. He's got 3 balls in this over. Wicky just nudge one and run. 1 to win for New Zealand. Wood's on his way and he bowls to Latham, who allows that to go by outside the off stump. Is not to be tempted. And Bracey collected that tidily, moving to his right, and Latham comes up and taps at the pitch. Taylor's coming down, offering him a word or two. A former New Zealand captain, of course, back in the day. But, Williamson, the incumbent, injured and not playing here, but hopefully it'll be good to go against India on Friday. 37 for 2. And Wood wheels round in the distance. New Zealand need 1 to win. Here he comes and bowls to Latham, who steers that away and punches the air as he steers the ball to the boundary. And New Zealand's acting captain has hit the winning runs to win the match and to win the series. And Joe Root's walking up to him, a chastening moment for the England captain. It's the first time he's lost a series at home. And that's a pretty grim performance by England, losing comprehensively by 8 wickets well before lunch on the 4th day, having won the toss and chosen to bat first on a flawless pitch. Might be a bit slow, or certainly hasn't caused any problems for the batsmen. It hasn't taken any wickets, shall we say. Not responsible for anything like that. England have been completely outplayed in every department, from batting, bowling, fielding, catching, you name it. They've been done, and they've got a lot to think about.
Can you explain it? I mean, really, you've watched more of this team than anybody. Overseas, here at home. What do you put it down to? Well, are there a couple of things, 2 or 3 things?
Jeremy, I'll be guessing, but I mean, we've all talked, and they have talked, so it's not a question of blaming the media for the fact that the Ashes is there in the distance. The players are preparing for the Ashes. They were doing so even in Sri Lanka, mentally planning and so on for that. So whether or not they are just consumed by that, the rotation policy that took place in India, the loss of confidence through having been bundled out by India in that Test series after they won the first game, whether that's had a hangover. But I think more. I mean, there's been so much talk about the contrast in the batting techniques, and you're much more qualified to talk about that, and so is Alistair and Michael in our commentary team to talk about that. But you can see it, as a bowler, I can see it. You know which group of batsmen you'd rather bowl at because of the technical oddities that there are about the way that the top order of England have acquired at the moment. So they've got a lot of thinking to do, because you can't just chuck everybody out and start again. So there are so many things to think about. Radio 4 Longwave listeners are going to leave us now for the shipping forecast, but you will be back. So, in a nutshell, Jeremy, that's an attempt at answering that question while talking up to the shipping forecast at the same time. So there's a certain amount of time restriction there. So there we go. I'm going to leave that with you.
There was relief.
And Dan's coming in here.
There was relief. Well done. Yeah, well, I guess from an outsider's point of view, it is very difficult to understand how you surround yourself with so many coaches and so many helpers and so many staff and so many facilities, so much money, and so many good contracts.
And still have such confusion. I mean, we were talking in the wellness area, whatever it's called.
Right, yes.
Indeed. And there's Butler, there's Bairstow, there's
all those
there's
issues
Mowing
as well.
Alley, there's Mowing Alley. I mean, England crying out for both a spinner and an all-rounder to balance their side. They've got a spinning all-rounder. He's not playing. They want to have four-seamers. It means they don't pick the spinner. They need to pick the spinner. You saw how effective Patel was. It wasn't just the balls that he bowled as such. It was the variety, the contrast. It's what it gives to the captain. And Root didn't have those options, so it was muddled thinking from beginning to end, wasn't it? I think we discussed it. It's a kind of dialectical confusion that pervades all areas of the debate around the England team at the moment, and it ends up with Root going in with an unbalanced-looking side of veteran bowlers down the bottom of the order, and some very, very inexperienced kids really at the top. I mean, Andy Zaltzman crunched the numbers, Michael. He said that England's top 7, if you took out Root, then it would be even younger, but was the youngest top 7 England had had for over 100 years. Now, how do we get to that situation when New Zealand's team look like hardened, gnarly professionals, all able to interchange and do other people's jobs? And we're looking at poor old James Bracey being given a rousing reception for scoring his first run, which was sort of emblematic of just how shabby England had sort of become really by the end of yesterday. The game was halfway through at 3 o'clock. There were 45 overs left in the third day, and there were 2 innings played. By the end of the day, the game was over. How does that happen?
Well, because they've been beaten by a good team. You know, New Zealand are a high-class cricket team. Every aspect of their game I just like. You know, the way that they bat, they play with a great maturity. They read the situation perfectly. The technical side of batting, if you analyse most things in Test match cricket, it's the team that can cover the basics the longest generally win games of Test match cricket. And New Zealand are able to do that because they've got a bowling unit that are very skillful and able to hit lengths consistently, and that allows them to swing the ball. They bowled a yard and a half fuller than the England team throughout this Test series. If you look at the way that they bat, again, simplicity, it's still on release of the ball without a huge amount of movement. I know techniques aren't everything. The mental side is equally as important, and I think both aspects of England's batting, technically and mentally, aren't quite there. Whereas you look at the way that New Zealand bat, I think technically they look a lot stronger, and I think mentally they read the situations better. That for me is a good Test match team, and that's exactly what New Zealand are. And England, just at this stage with this younger set of players, just don't look like they're a team that you would really lose too much sleep about playing against. There's not a great deal that you look at. Anderson's not moved the ball anything like that we usually expect. Broad, I thought in this game was magnificent. But yeah, I wouldn't mind playing against this England side, I have to be honest.
Yep, India will probably be licking their lips. Now the players are sort of milling around in front of us, some in training kits, some in their whites. Is that Colin de Grandhomme I see before me? Jeremy in a
yes, it is.
sun hat in his whites?
Yes, it is.
As if he's like come along hoping to get a game.
He's probably had a net.
Probably had a net, indeed. So there's a lot of milling. There's no crowing. There's no sort of jumping up and down. There's no what we traditionally get at the end of a series, which is champagne corks flying and general ribaldry and pleasure for one side and despair for the other. But on the subject of despair, I wanted to ask you both about Joe Root's innings yesterday. I don't think I've ever seen such a doleful knock from such a wonderful player. 11, was it, off 61 balls? Didn't seem ever to be getting going. Is that you know, we talked to Alistair Cook yesterday about the weight of captaincy and if that affects your batting. He said didn't really, particularly in his initial stage of captaincy. But yesterday it did look like the weight of everything was on him, and his brain wasn't doing the thing that it normally does when faced with a cricket ball. Manoeuvre it around, take your runs. He was just stuck.
Dan, I mean, Joe Root's captained over 50 games. I don't think the weight of captaincy affects him that much anymore. You don't have to look at the winter. He was absolutely magnificent with the bat. Yeah. I just look at technically. I think he's changed something that he didn't need to change. He's got this big trigger now. I look at power base. Has he got the the base in foundation to get back into the ball and power it down the ground. We saw Ollie came out and have a dash for a few balls, but he was hitting the ball down the ground with more freedom and a little bit more power. I just don't think Joe's technique at the minute is enabling him to do that.
So what does he do? Does he change what he's just changed?
He scored 8,700 Test match runs, so you'd hope that he'll know how to get back into form. I wouldn't be too worried about his batting.
It was just emblematic, I suppose, of a day in which England looked timorous. They've looked timorous in the series. They've never been the ones taking the game to New Zealand, have they? New Zealand have asked all the questions. Oh, we're going to go out to Jonathan Agnew. He's out and about.
Yes, I'm out on the bound. Yes, thank you, Dan. We're just waiting. The presentations will be made, and of course we'll have the opportunity to interview the England captain, New Zealand captain, and so on, and reflect on what's happened here. The crowd a little quiet, if I'm honest with you. I think a number are waiting to watch the football, so there should be some good atmosphere at Edgbaston this afternoon, even if it's not in cricket. So of the match and indeed of the series, and look back and look forwards, of course, and this podcast can be down. They've lost before lunch on the 4th day, on beautiful sunshine, perfect day for cricket, but having won the toss and chosen to bat first, this is clearly a very disappointing result indeed. And in fact, I'm going to stop right there because Joe Root is coming over to come and have a chat with me. He's going to talk into that microphone there, so it's socially distanced. Well, Joe, where do you start with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not been our best week, has it? I think we've massively underperformed. Credit to New Zealand, they've outplayed us throughout the game, and it's a tough one to take because fully thought at the start of the week we could come here and win the series, and in all departments we probably could have been a little bit better if we're being brutally honest, but dust ourselves off, pick ourselves back up. We've got a lot of cricket still to play this summer, a lot of exciting cricket as well, and we're a talented bunch of players, so we'll definitely come back stronger.
You'll have seen, I'm sure, or read or heard various comments about batsman's technique and so on, particularly at that top order. Is that something that you will look at? I mean, do you agree that there are some unusual batting techniques in England's top order when you compare it to like the very straightforward, simple techniques of your opponents?
All I'd say on batting is there's no right or wrong way to bat. You look at some of the best players in the world and none of them bat the same. They've all got different techniques, they've all got different styles, but they've all got a very clear way of how they want to score the runs. They've got a good balance between defence and attack. They manage situations well, different conditions well, and I think more than anything that's what we've got to look to improve on. We've got to make sure that we recognise what the dangers are, we know where we're going to score runs, and we can make good decisions under pressure for long periods of time. And ultimately I think that's the art of Test batting, and it's something that we've just got to be a little bit more consistent of. You look at this series so far, there's been a couple of really good performances with battle. Rory was excellent for the majority of the series, Dan Lawrence has showed his class. A couple of good starts from likes of Popey and that, but ultimately we've got to be more consistent and we've got to look to do it for longer periods of time, and that's how we're going to be a better side and a more consistent team and make bigger scores. And New Zealand they've schooled us a little bit on that this week, and you've got to learn from your opposition time to time. Whether it's a technical thing or not, I'm not necessarily sure. I think mindset wise, how we approach different things is certainly something that we can maybe be a little bit smarter at.
As far as planning is concerned, for this big year, and we've been talking about it since you went to Sri Lanka, for goodness sake, maybe that's part of the issue. Is this a spanner in the works? I mean, are you going to go away and reflect on the squad of players and think, are these players the ones who are good enough to go to Australia?
Look, we've got 5 more tests, and that's right at the back end of the year. There's a lot of cricket to be played between now and then, and ultimately that's a decision that we've got time to make. So the fact of the matter is the general core of this group of players has been the same for a good while now, and there's been some good performances within that. So I think it's not a time to panic. You look at previous tours when we've been to Australia, we've had massive overhauls going into major tournaments, whether that be one-day cricket, major series like the Ashes, like India. We just got to stay calm, stay relaxed, and trust what we've been doing for a long time now. And I think that's going to be really important.
When you see Trent Boult running in and bowling, he went back to New Zealand, he quarantined for 2 weeks there, he saw his family for 5 days, he's caught a flight back, he's come here and he's played in this Test match. And you see Chris Wokes and Sam Curran playing for their counties rather than playing here. Does that irritate you?
It's the situation we find ourselves in. That's out of my hands to a degree, and ultimately we've just got to front up to these games with this squad of players. There's definitely the talent in here to win a series, and It's just frustrating that we've not managed to follow that through.
And between now and India, it's a long time, that Test series, 2 rounds of Championship cricket, which not everyone will be involved in. I think most of the batsmen will be involved in. What are you going to do in that time? How are you going to make the most of that time? Because there's T20 cricket, there's 100 leading up to that Test series and so on. How are you going to try and make sure the Test squad is in the best shape before India?
Well, I sort of alluded to it when you spoke about the technique side of things. I think a lot of it is mental, and I think having clarity in how you want to play is and how you're going to deal with different situations is really important. So I think actually, you can do a lot of your batting without actually facing any deliveries. I think it's understanding that side of your game, and there is. It's not an inexperienced team. There's a good number of Test matches behind our batting group now, but it's still a relatively young team and the guys that are still learning their way. And we've got to learn fast because we're playing Test cricket, absolutely. But there's still plenty of learning that can be done. And as I mentioned, if you marry that with the talent that they've got and the ability they've got, you could see some really big scores by the back end of the year.
I'll ask you a left field question. You might not be interested, but World Test Championship Friday. 2 fine teams. You got any thoughts on who you'd fancy to win that?
I think it's going to be a fantastic game, as you say. Two brilliant teams. They cover all bases. I think both sides. It's going to be a fascinating watch. I'm looking forward to watching it, and good luck to them both. With us playing India later down the line, it'd be interesting to have a look and see how they line up in English conditions.
Thanks for talking to us, Joe.
Cheers, thank you.
Bye-bye. So there we go, England's captain, Joe Root, and so some interesting thoughts there. Here comes Matt Henry, I think, wandering around. I don't know if we're going to catch him or not, which is all a bit interesting down here. It sort of comes and goes. Here he comes, coming to talk to me. Hello, Matt Henry. Jonathan Agnew, nice to meet you. Well bowled.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well bowled. How does that feel? Winning a medal.
Great, yeah, no, absolutely great. Yeah, no, it was just great to obviously get that series win. It's a long time coming. We've had a series win over here, so to be able to do it like that today was just brilliant, yeah.
You have got a really good team thing going. I mean, that's clear from sitting up there 100 yards away.
Yeah, I think that's probably been the foundation of our success for a while. We've had this group's been together for a long time, and I think when people come in, they fit straight in and they're able to just express themselves. And I think there's that confidence when you do come in here and have that opportunity that there's no expectation, actually just to enjoy your cricket. And I think from there it's really bred some great results.
Is it still really special for a New Zealand cricket team to come here to England and to win? We've got Jeremy Coney up there, of course, who celebrated his great series win those years ago, and yeah, he's pretty emotional up there. It really means something.
Oh, massive. I mean, any time you get to come play Test cricket in England is it's as good as it gets, really. I absolutely love it here, and I think all the players share that same feeling as well, and we know how hard it is to beat England in their own conditions, and this definitely was one of those moments. I think we obviously came over here to win the series, and we knew that it was going to be tough. We were going to have to fight well and use our squad as well. Obviously we were pretty unlucky with a few injuries, and it was a lot of changes, so I think that's just probably testament to the squad, and I suppose the trust in knowing what we need to do to go about our work.
Man of the match here, prospects of playing on Friday I mean, you put your hand up.
Oh, look, mate, whatever happens, but I think it's just one thing at a time. I think we'll just enjoy this moment, I think, to, like you said, win this Test series, and then we've obviously got that final coming up, a very short turnaround, so no, look, it's obviously great to play your part.
Well bowled again. Thank you, Matt.
Appreciate it.
Nice to meet you. Right, we carry on with our podcast, shall we? Michael and Alistair up there, I think, in the commentary box. What did you make of the Joe Root discussion chat?
Well, he wants to try and put a positive spin on a loss. He'll be disappointed. He'll know deep down that his team have just not been good enough. The fundamental basics of playing at this level require skill, discipline, mental toughness. They haven't shown much of that over the course of the last 2 weeks. It would have been 2-0, Agaz, in my opinion, if it hadn't rained at Lord's. New Zealand are a class team. They're a high-class team. What do? They cover the basics for longer periods, with the bat in hand. I agree techniques aren't everything in Test match cricket, but it does worry me that, a New Zealand top 7 just look like they're stiller on the release of the ball. They play straight, and more importantly, they read the situation better. So when the ball's swinging around, you feel that the New Zealand top 7 really do work for their off stump, play nice and late, don't go looking for the big drive. But when the ball stops swinging, that's when they take on the shots. Whereas I think the England team, and they've been doing it for a while if we're totally honest, they just keep playing. They play the same way. So if the ball's full, they drive the ball. They don't really work out that the ball's swinging, and now's the time to believe in the ball. And that's a concern with the batting lineup. Of course, Ben Stokes, Josh Buttler, Jofra Archer, Chris Woakes will add to the team and improve them. But New Zealand changed their team by 6 players this week and have absolutely hammered England on a good pitch. The pitch has been tremendous. It's been a really, really good Test match cricket wicket, and let's not forget that they've decided over the 2 games in dry conditions in the UK to go with no spinner, a frontline spinner, and that for me is a concern. That the think tank, we talk the technical side, the mental side, but the think tank I think have got it wrong as well over the course of the 2 games. Not playing Jack Leach, would he have made the difference? Would they have won? Possibly not, but it's just thinking about the game correctly in these conditions, and I don't think England have done that. Will he get the team together, and will they have a chance of bouncing back? Yeah, of course, because England are strong at home, but I do worry, if England continue to play on these kind of wickets, which they should if they want to prepare themselves properly for Australia, it could be a long 5 Test matches against India. What I wouldn't want to see is them to panic and suddenly prepare green tops for the likes of Anderson and Broad to have a field day, because this batting unit, if they're going to have any chance of winning down under, have got to get used to getting big scores. And if you prepare green tops, they're not going to get anything, and they'll end up going down under with no confidence whatsoever. So they have to stick to this policy of playing on these kind of wickets, but they've obviously got to play a lot better.
Alistair, you've been in that Joe Root position a few times, facing the questions and so on. What did you make of what he had to say about the current situation? I thought he was quite honest.
He was, and the big thing for me was, recognising his mental. He's been quite very honest there, and I'm seeing a side of batsmen. Now, I don't know if this is a fallout from India, like the after effect, the hangover when they collapsed a lot under, tough conditions, spinning wickets where, there were 100, I don't think they got 200 apart from the first innings of that tour, whether they've just lost all their confidence. What I've seen in this batting lineup is when the pressure comes on, the intensity of Test cricket, the scrutiny of it, they can't handle it. So yes, they've got quirky techniques, but these techniques have made them score a lot of county runs and at times scored Test runs. Burns has got 200, so has Sibley. Pope's got 100. We know Joe Root's class, so you almost have to exclude him from this kind of conversation. But when the pressure comes on, mentally they aren't handling it. They are not handling it. They're not making the right decisions that you need to do. So they have to be honest with themselves and speak to people about it. I think it's a massive area of concern for me that they are underachieving at this level, and I think it's in between their ears.
I suppose inevitably he said, "Don't panic," more or less, didn't he? We're not going to panic, or words to that effect. So, but they've got some decisions to make, and it is this really strange situation now in which that India series doesn't start until the first week in August, and we've talked about the county cricket structure up to then, the championship cricket. There's a sort of a half a round and then a full round. Most of the batsmen will get at least one game in that time, but that's 3 weeks before the Test match starts. I mean, being absolutely honest about it, you two. I'll just start with Michael. I mean, that's not the sort of preparation that England's Test team needs right now, is it?
No, but preparation, I think, I'm with Alistair, needs to be between the ears. I think they can do a lot in between the ears. I was strong in India when they made the changes, having gone 1-0 up in the series. I said at the time, and I'll go back to it, I'm going to keep going back to it this year, I believe that's when the Test match team started to be dismantled. You don't muck about with Test cricket, Ajaz. England last year, they beat the West Indies, beat Pakistan, they go to Sri Lanka 2-0, they play great. You go 1-0 up in India, and all of a sudden rotation, swapping and changing. Again, the think tank. Go back to that day-nighter, that pink ball game. England played one spinner on an absolute beach.
Yes.
So you can't tell me that the think tank's working correctly. It's not working correctly. And I believe in Test match cricket, you've just heard Matt Henry say. Matt Henry said, this set of players have been playing together for years. That's why they're a quality Test match team. England had a team that had won in South Africa, beat the West Indies, beat Pakistan, won in Sri Lanka, and all of a sudden ripped it up. Why weren't they rested for the T20 series in India? Why is Owen Morgan suddenly going to play a T20 series against Sri Lanka with pretty much his full-strength team once again? In an era where after 2019 we got told by the ECB that the next thing on the agenda was winning in Australia. It was all going to be eggs in the basket for the Test team. I haven't seen it, Ajaz. I haven't seen the eggs in the basket of the Test team. I'm seeing once again the eggs in the basket of the T20 team, the white ball team. And fundamentally, if you muck around with Test cricket, I'm afraid it brings inconsistency, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
And Alistair, same question for you, really. I mean, if you were one of England's top order batsmen here, and you look at the cricket that's coming up to prepare you for a Test series against obviously a very strong bowling attack, would you be happy with what you've been scheduled?
Well, there's nothing you can do about it, so you can't moan about it. You can't then use that as an excuse. You know, you are, as a player, totally responsible for your game. So it's down to you. It's down to you to go and sort whatever issue you think you might have out, whether you think it's technically you need to change, or whether you want to go hit millions of balls or hit 10 balls between now and August, whenever that Test match starts. Whether you want to go and play T20 cricket at 100, you've got to make your mind up. This is how I'm going to prepare myself, so you are ready for that first game against India, and it's almost another step up against, you know, in a long Test match series and against India. So they've got to go away and they've got to front up to the challenge. And it's exciting as a player when you've got challenges like this, because if you overcome it and you start to deliver the results from where they come as a batting lineup, it's a great feeling, and that's what sport can do. Challenge you to do it, and the guys have got to go and do that.
Yeah. Again, question for both of you. It's always easy to obviously throw the players under a bus in a situation like this. But what about the coaching? What about those who are suggesting these techniques or coaching these techniques about which people have been critical of? I mean, should they also be looking at themselves, Michael?
Well, I believe the player has to take responsibility. I'm a firm believer of that you are the person that's going out there to face the deliveries. You've got to work out. You don't survive at Test match level if you don't know your own game. You know, you can't just always be getting out, going and speaking to the coach, what happened there. Well, if you can't work out where you're making your mistakes and what you're thinking at that time, I'm sorry, you shouldn't be playing Test match cricket. So you can have a finger point at the coaches and ask why are they allowing players to go out there with certain techniques. I personally just look at the players. You know, the players have to be better. That batting lineup this week, did I see it really challenging New Zealand? Yeah, I did actually. I thought they won the toss, the pitch was okay, it wasn't doing a great deal. You know, they should have got more than 303. I thought they did well in the field eventually to bowl New Zealand out for 388. They just kept going and going with the wrong attack. And then in the second innings, as Alistair mentioned, it's when they're under pressure and you judge players at this level when the pressure's on. Can your game and your mentality withstand the pressure button of the opposing team or the scoreboard situation which England found themselves in the second innings? You know, and we have to be honest that this Test match batting for a long period, it's not just been this year, it's been for a long while. When they're under pressure and when the pressure button's pressed, technically, mentally, you know, a few question marks are always asked, and that is a concern because look, I love cricket, I love watching cricket, and I've been so used to in our time and in the last 10 years of watching England play, particularly at home, very well. Very rarely do we get beat in English conditions. I do remember the 90s when teams would come, particularly Australian teams, I guess the West Indies in the 80s would come and have glorious summers and dominate Test match cricket against an England side.